say what's going right, what's going wrong, what do we do right or wrong, and how do we move forward. It's a no-holds-barred, candid discussion of where we are. That's what the Republican Party needs now. When you look at the results of the election last year, lost the presidency by 10 million votes, lost that campaign by 10 million votes. We saw both houses of Congress switch to the Democrats. We saw whole sections of the country move to the Democratic column. Virginia, my state, Democratic. Florida, Nevada, other places. We looked at all of the demographics of it. Gallup poll had a series of indicators, and in almost every demographic indicator, the Republican Party is losing. North, south, east, west, men, women, whites, blacks, Hispanics. And I think the Republican Party has to take a hard look at itself and decide, what kind of party are we? Are we simply moving further to the right, and by so doing opening up the right of center and the center to be taken over by independents and to be taken over by Democrats? You look at the statistic in Pennsylvania that our inspector has cited. 200,000 Republicans in Pennsylvania switched their allegiance to become Democrats in the election of 2008. That kind of leakage cannot continue if the Republican Party is going to play a major role in the life of our country. And if you look at the other statistic that is around these days, and that the number of people identifying themselves as Republicans has dropped significantly into the low 20s. And among those low 20s, they're not all conservatives. A lot of them are fairly moderate or right-of-center Republicans who are concerned about the right wing. And they're not that vocal about it, because if you are vocal, you're going to get your voicemail filled up, and you're going to get lots of emails like I do.
Well, what about Rush Limbaugh? A lot of people who are Republicans say, hey, people are taking him too seriously. He is just an entertainer. But he has been on your case for quite a while. When you announced you were voting for Barack Obama, he said the only reason he's doing that is because Barack Obama is black. Was he calling you a racist?
I don't know what he was doing by that, and I don't want to exchange insults with him. But I thought it was unfortunate. I laid out a very specific set of reasons as to why I was voting for Barack Obama. Mr. Limbaugh saw fit to dismiss all of those reasons and put it into a racial context, that the only reason I did it is that I was black and I had never voted for a Democrat before. Well, yes, I have. Voted for John Kennedy. I voted for Lyndon Johnson. I even voted for Jimmy Carter. And I've always tried to vote for the best man. But he put it in that racial context, and I thought that that was very unfortunate. What about the 69 million people who voted for Barack Obama? Did they all do it on the basis, why doesn't he sort of comment on those? But Mr. Limbaugh is entitled to his opinion, and I don't say he shouldn't have an opinion. The nature of our country is we ought to debate these things. But he shouldn't have a veto over what someone thinks. And he's an entertainer, he is a radio figure, and he is a significant one. But he's more than that. When the chairman of the RNC, Michael Steele, issues the mildest of criticisms concerning Mr. Limbaugh, and then 24 hours later, the chairman of the RNC has to lay prostrate on the floor, apologizing for it. And when two congressmen offer the mildest criticism of Mr. Limbaugh, they too, within 24 hours, have such pressure brought to bear on them that they have to change their view and apologize for criticizing him. Well, if he's out there, he should be subject to criticism, just as I am subject to criticism. Let's debate the future of the party, and let's let all segments of the party come in. You know, my model for the Republican Party is a great man we just lost, a man by the name of Jack Kemp. Jack was as conservative as anybody. We all know Jack. And Jack also was a man who believed in inclusiveness, reaching out to minorities, reaching out to the poor, sharing the wealth, which became a bad term last fall, but sharing the wealth of the country, not only with the rich, but with those who are least advantaged in our society. It's that kind of Jack Kemp republicanism that I like, and I would like to see the party move more in that kind of a direction.
Let's talk a little bit about Guantanamo. The vice president came out very hard against the Obama administration and its policies. He said it would be a mistake to close Guantanamo. Others have said it would actually pose a danger to this country if these people are brought back. Do you think Guantanamo should be closed, John?
Yes, I felt Guantanamo should be closed for the past 6 years, and I lobbied and presented reasons to President Bush. And Mr. Cheney is not only disagreeing with President Obama's policy, he's disagreeing with President Bush's policy. President Bush stated repeatedly to international audiences and to the country that he wanted to close Guantanamo. The problem he had was he couldn't get all the pieces together. Secretary Rice, Secretary of State Rice, and Secretary of Defense Gates had come forward with plans, but the plans ran into difficulties with the Department of Justice and others. So it is a complex problem, and President Bush wasn't able to close Guantanamo on his watch. And President Obama came in saying he would close Guantanamo, and he has run into some of those same sorts of problems. So I think we need to kind of take the heat out of this issue. I think President Obama didn't handle it very well by going up to the Congress and asking for $80 million without a plan, and by frankly giving enough time to opponents of it to marshal their forces as to why we shouldn't do this. But Guantanamo has caused us a great deal of trouble throughout the world. And Mr. Cheney the other day said, well, we're doing it to satisfy European intellectuals or something like that. No, we're doing it to reassure Europeans, Muslims, Arabs, all the people around the world that we are a nation of law. It isn't so much Guantanamo, it's the people at Guantanamo. How do we deal with them? We can't keep them locked up forever. This business is about making the country less safe by bringing these people to our prison system. We've got 2 million people in jail in America, the highest incarceration rate in the world. And they all had lawyers, they all had access to the writ of habeas corpus, and they're all in jail. And I don't know, Bob, if you've ever seen some of these prison reality shows on television where they show you what a super lockup is. I'm not terribly worried about one of these guys going to a super lockup and being kept locked up.
So you think they can be brought here and kept safely without posing any danger?
And I think that should have been done immediately and not start looking for $80 million to build prisons. Look, we're talking about roughly 240. The hardcore problem is that there are some of them that you really do not have cold evidence on that you could put before an Article III court. That's the problem that President Bush struggled with. It's the problem that President Obama is struggling with. We may have to find new legislation or have the Congress assist us with this, but let's get it into our system of laws with an executive and a legislative and a judicial branch all working it together.
Have you talked to President Obama about this?
Yes.
You have? And what have you talked to him about?
I prefer to. The views I've just expressed to you, President Obama has heard from me.
He has heard from you on this.
I have been
Do
public,
you think
that
he can get the Congress to go with him on this? I'm told there are people like Lindsey Graham and maybe even John McCain